There's a really interesting article by, I think, Tanya Gold in the New Statesman about the about the end of the royal family, about Charles as the last king of England, and she's very convincing. She talks about the difference between gods and dolls, the deities that we toy with. She talks about Lady Diana's legs being seen when she was first photographed, holding the two children outside the nursery where she was working, which was called New England or something. And she talks about people dreaming of the late Queen Elizabeth II, and how she embodied a form of monarchy which was already out of date when she became queen, but she was suited to it. And nobody else seems to be. She survived, she says, by accident, a curio, a survivor of a past age as the world secularized and changed around her and embraces dogma of equality and fairness while it was presided over by the monarchy, the symbol of wealth and power, a contradiction which has come to lead with the King and the Princess of Wales' illness into chaos, contempt, disaster, cancer. Cancer. The weird AI photo, the confession of cancer on the bench surrounded by daffodils, the sex scandal of Prince Andrew, the exile of Prince Harry, what she calls the whistle-blowing book Spare, which exposes the cruelty which is at the center of the institution. And she talks about on the one hand, the demands of the monarchy on the royal family, and on the other, but made by us, and on the other, the obscene and universal levity that was projected onto Princess Diana and now onto Princess Catherine, and how the system now fails. And it made me think, if King Charles is the last king, who was the first? I challenge you, who was the first? I asked somebody, I was doing a lesson earlier today, and I asked my students, and they were not stupid in any way. And they suggested William the Conqueror, which of course is wrong, and then King Alfred, who burnt the cakes. But of course it was Athelstan, who was really the first king of England, and his England went all the way up to Aberdeen. But, from the point when the Romans left in about 400, 410, whatever it was, and the Angles and the Saxons and the Jutes and the Frisians invaded the country and pushed out the indigenous Britons, and the Celts, they pushed them up and down. And we founded the lands of Northumbria, Mercia, Kent, East Anglia, and Wessex. And the Venerable Bede eventually turns up and starts to talk about the Angles or the English. And the Vikings come in and raid the land and stir up the first embers of a genuine monarchy in Alfred in Wessex, who escapes to the marshes, burns the cakes, calls himself King Alfred of the Anglo-Saxons. But it's not true. When he died in 899, it was still just a small pocket of the islands. His sons, Ethelfred and Edward, who spent their lives beating back the Vikings, Basher Viking, Basher Viking. But it was in 927 or something when Ethelstan, so the grandson of King Alfred, unites Mercia and Wessex and then goes north, first to York, takes over Northumbria, and becomes the first real king of England. But he goes all the way up under the banner of St. John, if you remember, guided in York by the sepulchral vision of St. John in his monastic robes. He says, "Who are you?" And St. John says, "Cross the river." And he fights Constantine the Second of Aberdeen and unites the kingdom. I don't think it's a happy union, but it is a union. And then Edmund takes the throne in 946 or so. And he did a deal with Malcolm in Scotland over Cumbria. Let's be allies rather than I'm going to be in control of you. And then his half-brother Edred, who fought Eric Bloodaxe, and Eric Bloodaxe then takes over for a short period. Then Edgar, then Ethelred the Unready, who flees to Normandy for a short period of time, comes back, dies in 1016, and then Canute takes over. The Danes finally get control of the kingdom, but he's still crowned with an Anglo-Saxon ceremony, and that's something that William does when he becomes king in 1066 on Christmas Day. He's crowned by an Anglo-Saxon archbishop in Anglo-Saxon. After Canute, you get Edmund Ironside, who fled to Gloucester when the kingdom was divided. And then there's this strange reunion under Edmund, and a strange reunion, strange agreement between Edmund Ironside. He always sounds like a television program, doesn't he? And King Canute, and whoever dies first, the other one's going to get the whole kingdom. And Edmund died about a month later. So Canute got the whole lot along with Denmark and Norway and this huge mass of land, and England seems a very small part of that. And then in 1042, you finally get the saintly Edward the Confessor, who rules until 1066, when you've got all the mess with Harold and eventually William coming in, knowing that there's confusion, knowing that there's always been confusion in England at that point. And confusion goes with the job, I think. So although I think Tanya Gold's piece is stimulating and exciting and interesting and beautifully written, she misses out on she misses the point that English history, British history, has been drenched in confusion. And even when you start that long tradition from William I through to Elizabeth II, as in the horrible histories, which I don't remember, I'm afraid, so somebody else can do that better than me. There's still confusion. There's confusion at different points in the story. There's confusion. This is not a clear, monolithic line. And there's division of the country between the north and the south. The levelling up has always been an aim, or the levelling down, the harrying of the north. And this has not been a terribly united kingdom. And it's really only since Victoria that there's been that sense of unity. And for much of that time, that was there because the royal family saw itself as a postage stamp, an icon to be stuck on the letters, to be mute and in profile. And the rot set in the 1970s when the Queen and the forward-looking Duke of Edinburgh invited the BBC into the palace, I think into Windsor Castle. And the mystery, the magic, the majesty of kingship was punctured. I don't think that it was the BBC that destroyed the monarchy. I don't think that it was Diana's legs that destroyed the monarchy. But I think the BBC programme, The Royal Family, encapsulated the mood of the time, and that mood was destructive. As far as the royal family was concerned, that mood was not respectful as far as the royal family was concerned. That was the point at which the deities became toys. And when Diana came along, Diana was the outside, and she came in, and within a very short space of time she was throwing herself down the stairs and heaving over the lavatory bowl, because it was a world that was divorced from reality that she couldn't cope with. And we saw The Crown, how Prince William was enlisted to tell Prince Harry about the death of his mother. It's not true. The truth is in Spare, how the king put his hand on Harry's knee and assured him everything would be okay, and then left the room. Left his little boy to be on his own. His little boy to walk behind his mother's coffin and listen to the snaps of the photographer's lens shutters going off, as people were crying publicly in the street and he was expected to remain silent. And these are moments in the collapse of monarchy that we are witnessing, moments when the magic has gone, the mystery, the majesty of monarchy has gone. And it's not the BBC that's destroyed it, it's the BBC that has recorded it. Whether it's the see-through dress, whether it's the paparazzi, whether it's the television programme The Royal Family, these are moments in a downward spiral that even the stability of Elizabeth II could not save. And Charles, I think, is not the person to save the monarchy. William might be. I think Harry stands more chance of saving the monarchy than anybody else, but I don't think that's going to be on offer to him. And I think William's instinct is to close everything down, to make things smaller, rather than to reach out. I wonder if we are seeing Charles as the last king. But my feeling is Tanya Gold is wrong. I think she's identified the right problem. I think she's drawn the wrong conclusion. I think the monarchy will linger on, and it may find a revival. Because in the end, a country defined by a person is a country that recognises its vulnerability, its heart. A country defined solely by a flag is a country which has pinned itself to a mast. And people bury, what's the line in The Sound of Music? People bury themselves in the flag. You can't bury yourself in the monarch. The monarch is there with personality, with distance, and is a sort of wryly amusing novelty, a leftover from history. And I think while we have a monarch, we aren't likely to take ourselves too seriously, and that's a good thing. But Brexit brings it to a head, because Brexit is about redefining ourselves. And I don't think we know who we are at the moment. And that, I think, is a bigger problem than the failures of Prince Andrew or anyone else in the royal family. The bigger problem is Brexit.